Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you may be. This is Malcolm Berman, and this is Syd Mandelbaum, and our special guest is, introduce yourself.
I'm Dr. Kareem Mebane as of 11 days ago, 5 minutes ago.
You just got your doctorate, or what type of
I did.
doctorate?
It
Yes, he
just got
did.
officially conferred by the university and the board of trustees.
What type of doctor are you?
I'm a no good doctor. But,
He's piled high and deep.
Yeah, well that's
So I
what the
haven't-
whole thing, and a BA, a BS, you know what that stands for.
Oh, yeah.
MS is more of the same, and
Right.
PhD piled higher and deeper. So congratulations.
I can
So
live
thank
with
you. Thank you. It's a long time coming, 4 years. It's officially a education doctorate degree, so a doctor in education,
Mhm.
with a specialty and focus in on ethics.
Ethics.
Well, also you could talk about Kareem comes from a religious family. Talk a little bit
Very
about
much.
your background. So
Yeah, so I went to Yale Divinity School a few years ago. Graduated from Yale Divinity School with a degree in religion, with a concentration in ethics and in finance. My degree is split between Yale Divinity School and Yale School of Management. At the same time, my father and I attended Yale together at the same exact time, and we graduated together at the
Wow.
same time. The first time in that university 305-year history that a father and son went through the same exact program and graduated on the same exact day. The old man is a priest up on the Cape. I ran away from that calling, but my grandfather grew up and did a lot of work in the African Methodist Episcopal Zion tradition, which is the AME Zion tradition, which, as I know, you two brothers recognize, has a very close kinship to your own tribe. And my grandmother as well on both sides have been deeply religious, but I always say the one person in the family that should have gone to divinity school and really become a leader in the church is my mother. She is the one that continues to educate us on all things religion.
Well, I'll tell you, it's my theory that when you do away with all the rituals, all the pomp and circumstance, I mean, basically, at least Western, we all believe in the same Father. So, to me, it's very simple. As a matter of fact, tomorrow I have another show on Malcolm Presents. It's called Up Close and Personal, and my guest is the Reverend Fletcher Harper, who's an Episcopal reverend. And I want to find out him, because I'd love to do. In fact, I'm talking to him about doing a show on religion. And to me, religion is so misinterpreted. And religion right now, the way it's done, it's keeping people apart versus uniting them. And I'd love to speak about that theories with someone who is deeply religious like yourself or Reverend Harper.
Yeah, Fletcher's a really great person. He's a member of my tribe. We call them Anglicans.
Yeah.
So, my mother would say that I'm an Anglican Catholic, meaning that we follow everything that comes out of the Church of England. But here in the United States, we are Episcopalians and recognized and proud to be that.
Right. Yeah. Reverend Harper, are reverends celibate?
Not in the Episcopal faith.
Because that's what I was wondering. Because when he was on the show, we're talking about he has he's in charge of something called the Green Faith, is part of his church, and we were on the Many Shades of Green talking about ecology, and that's how I met him a few weeks ago. So if you go Many Shades of Green, you'll see him.
Right. If you have Many Shades of Gray, you see somebody else, I think.
But anyway, how do you're now Syd and Malcolm, and Syd has this rock and wrap it up. Are you involved with that aspect?
Yes, I have the great honor and distinct privilege to fly under the Mandelbaum flag, and not just Mr. Mandelbaum, but also his lovely bride, Diane. We do a little bit of that work here in the Nutmeg State, so that we can continue to honor not just the Mandelbaums, but really all of God's people. We've had great success doing that over the years.
Yes, Sid is quite a character, as I say. For some reason, we have a lot of affinity. It's like I just met him, a few months ago, but we have we don't even have similar backgrounds, but we have similar. I know. What would you say, Sid?
Passion. I think
Passion.
we're both passionate human beings. And you actually met me through our work on 50 Shades of Green
Right.
with Margot.
Maxine Margot.
Maxine Margot. We were on her program 10 years ago. And then again, we were on a program about a year ago, talking about how we're trying to reduce both carbon and poverty footprints simultaneously. And we are unique in that because of the ability we have of not just taking the food, but being able to tell people what the value is of it environmentally. Pounds of food have greenhouse gas diversion rates. They have water rates if they had to be regrown. And all that has a huge message for this generation and also the future generation.
Yeah. So how do you relate? What are you? How are you involved with Sid in this aspect?
Yeah, so it kind of started, dare I say, back in 2004, maybe a little bit earlier than that. I was in another life. I worked as a professional baseball umpire.
Wow.
And
We got to talk about that.
yeah, so I was at a spring training game in Tampa at the old Steinbrenner Stadium, which was called Legends Field. And I was on the field and I saw a PSA come across the board talking about rock and wrap it up. And this is something that I have been very passionate about because I think that there's a lot of waste that takes place, not just in our country, but really along the human spirit. We waste a lot of our talents, it seems. And so I was looking to get myself involved. And when spring training ended and I came back to Connecticut, I called Mr. Mandelbaum and I said, hey, I would love to be able to be part of this venture. What can I do? What help do you need? And ever since then, we have been rocking and rapping
Wow.
together. Right.
Just an offshoot, are you aware of Sid's involvement with measuring home runs?
You know, I am. And I saw this tremendous photo of him and one of the daughters at Shea Stadium, which I think is now called Citi Field. And I saw one of my greatest baseball players from yesteryear, Mr. Ralph Kiner. And it brought such great joy to be able to see that photo with the two of them up in the press box.
Yeah, Ralph Kiner for many years was the announcer for the New York Mets. That I don't remember his playing days, but I remember him from being a Met. By the way, just the other day, Willie Mays making me feel old. Willie Mays was 90 years old.
Yeah.
Ralph Kiner in his day was one of the greatest home run hitters for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he averaged 40 home runs a year for 8 years in a row. First time that was ever done. And when he heard about what I was doing, he had me up and I was on Kiner's corner. He had me for an hour speaking about the algorithms we had developed to measure home run distance. But like every other home run hitter, they would always share with me the longest home runs that they ever saw. And I worked with a number of announcers, and Kiner was fabulous and could not have been a nicer, more affable, intelligent, news broadcaster that we had worked with, and I worked with great ones, but kind of was just on a different level. And he was a great man on top of that, quietly doing things, not looking for recognition. He had people that he supported privately with funds that he wanted no one to know about. This was his thing, and he whispered it to me off broadcast. How he loved what we were doing, and that the New York Mets had joined us 10 years later was just super, because I would see him afterwards when we were doing food recovery, and he was still announcing in 2005, quite a number of years ago anyway. But it was just, it was a blessing all around. And it was a blessing to have Kareem, because the work that he's done in the state of Connecticut. Talk a little bit about the golf outings that have been tens of thousands of meals have come to the help the needy because of Kareem and Vin Marbury.
Yeah, yeah. So, I do nothing in this state without my great partner, Vincent Marbury, Esquire, and raconteur in and of itself. So in Connecticut, we host the largest sporting event in New England, known as the Travelers Championship. It's a golf tournament sponsored by the PGA and Travelers Insurance Corporation. And every year, they just basically hand over keys up to tractor trailers worth of food, concessions, drinks, plastic and paper goods, and anything else that is not bolted down. And we supply, as of I looked at the spreadsheet last week, we supplied 17 different food pantries and soup kitchens in Connecticut. And so we're lucky enough this year, the Travelers is going to take place with fans in about 3.5 weeks. And they're going to allow us to work with Aramark again for that full week. And we will be able to provide a number of meals to them. We're also very excited that in Bridgeport, there's a new amphitheater that just got built. They're looking to hold concerts this summer. And right down the road from me here in the beautiful Elm City, you can see a couple of elms behind me. We have the Westfield Music Bowl, and they have a number of avant-garde concerts that they will be hosting starting this week and going all the way till about September. So we have some new opportunities that we're very excited about, especially re-engaging those concerts and music halls, but also really extending some of the work that we do with the hotels and the hospitals here in Connecticut that have just continued to be great partners during this pandemic.
Yeah, hopefully the pandemic is over. I don't know. Are you involved with your church as far as trying to get, aside from the food, trying to get people vaccinated? Because it seems like this is like, the grassroots level of getting people involved because they listen to their pastors, their churches.
Yes, so we have been engaged with 6 different churches in New Haven alone. Through the Episcopal faith. I definitely have been encouraging folks to get vaccinated. This is actually my first day since Saturday to be outside my home. I got the second COVID Pfizer vaccine on Saturday afternoon. And I was very glad that I got it, but I had I'll just say some reactions to it. And this is the first day that I've actually been outside. And I think the reactions that I had was basically my fault. When I was doing some research, environmental research in South Africa last year in January. And then I came back and I took a number of students down in Puerto Rico to rebuild homes for a week. I had caught COVID. And then was really sick for about a month and a half. and then recuperated nicely. And then I got the vaccinations, had no problem with the first vaccine, but the second vaccine I had a reaction to because I did something very stupid, which was I did not hydrate properly, and I did not rest. And so I wore my body down and it got the best of me, but I'm tip top now, and so glad to be kind of outside and away from uh, the kitchen and the bedroom and
Yeah,
everything else.
four walls can drive you crazy.
Yeah, it really, really did. And so we have been really trying to get a number of people, especially in marginalized and vulnerable and often forgotten communities, to be vaccinated. Because as you know, the CDC has stated that the most number of people that have been afflicted by COVID, especially in a negative way, have looked like me. We don't know the official numbers of the 600,000 plus that have died who were Black or brown, but we continue to kind of promote this vaccine because it really is going to be a game changer for all of us.
Yeah. Do you think that the reason is, especially for Black folks, of what's happened in the past, of the mistrust of government, of having government lie to them? Of course, I'm going back to the Tuskegee project with the syphilis, and that seems to be a major influence on them.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely mistrust there. I think with the Tuskegee experiment, and I just found this out about a year ago when I had to do my own institutional review board training. The government actually had the medicine, but they withheld it from Black folks because they wanted to see how syphilis would ravage their bodies. This is different. We have the medicine, and we know that rich folks, we know that a lot of white folks, and we know a lot of skeptics are getting this vaccine. And it's really interesting. I think the biggest skeptics have come on this nation's largest network, especially as it relates to cable, and many of their on-air talents who have talked really poorly about getting the vaccine, secretly got the vaccine. And so this is something that we need to be aware of. And I think the other reason why COVID has just affected so many Black and brown folks is because Black and brown folks have been the essential workers. Um, whether they are civil service workers, whether they work in restaurants, whether they work in industries such as hospitality or tourism or event management, those are the workers that we see. Also, they don't have the access to healthcare, and that has affected Black and brown folks disproportionately, not just with COVID, but with a number of other health care issues that are systemic to poverty and income inequality.
Also from my experience in living in the city, sort of the poor folks, the poor section was basically cramped in with one another. There's really no space to breathe. So they live in much closer quarters.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. But when you were talking before, of what you did and what you're doing and where you're going, any minute I thought you'd stand up, rip off your shirt, and I would see the big S for Superman.
No, the S belongs to Syd. It's underneath that shirt that he has. I only have a Yale shirt on today, so I'm a mere mortal.
Yeah, between both of you, talking to both of you and what you've done, I feel like I've accomplished nothing in my life. This is going to be my contribution. The new Zoomcast of the new century.
Just continue to do a good job, Malcolm. We respect you, what you do, and it gets our voice out to so many others, which is so important to us because we're always looking to broaden our ability of fighting poverty, and pieces like this go a long way, especially for people that don't know about us. And Kareem is the third state that we really covered. We spoke to Christy in Texas. She did an interview, and Amy Riley in California. So we have a global look, but we are really behind the scenes. When I tell you that most of the time, I don't need people knowing what we do. We go there, we get our food, and we leave. And I would rather it be that way, because in anonymity, you get more. If they put a spotlight on waste, we've seen it disappears for all the wrong reasons. People get yelled at for miscalculating something, where, catering is such an inexact science, they never really know. And greed is the reason why they always make more. So we're dependent on that greed to help feed the poor.
Yeah.
And it works. We've seen it in, dozens and dozens of industries. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Yale and Kareem's work at Yale. I did a talk for the EPA in New England about 7 or 8 years ago. And listening to the talk was the head of sustainability of Yale Medical School. And it was through that talk that we started our first hospital wrap program. And food from Yale, food from Bridgeport Hospital, food from Greenwich Hospital were able to be recovered. And we're able to increase that to the largest hospital right now that we have is Alexian Brothers Hospital, which is in Chicago. And all that happened because of the success that we had with Kareem helping to organize the food recovery from Yale. And that is another avenue that we look to expand over the coming years, because the amount of waste fits into the need to have sustainability in hospitals. And they're looking for ways to do that. And we are, at least the easiest way for them to say they're sustainable, by having food that is not going to be used, be able to be safely recovered.
Right, yeah, it's a good thought. Well, in opposite of you, I'm looking to see how we could promote this show so we really get an international audience or around the world. So, through the social media. So whoever talk about the show, Malcolm Presents. And what I'm also looking to do is Malcolm Presents can be a platform for other type of Zoomcasts. So I don't have to be part of it. I mean, my ego is not that much where I have to be a part of the show. I could have a show that Syd does alone with you, or you do alone with other people, and I just put it on Malcolm Presents. But I love being on the show because I love talking.
Yeah.
Not so much looking at myself, but talking, I have fun doing.
And we like listening to you, Malcolm.
Oh, good. I'm glad someone does, because my wife looks at me and says, I've heard the story before. Talk about something else. That's after being married 27 years. You run out of new things to tell her, or new things about your life.
God bless.
So,
Well, some of the other things that Kareem happens to have his birthday around the same time that we've had our golf outing. And I've been blessed to have afternoon that Kareem will come down and partake in our fundraiser. We always love having him come down to
that is such a great event, and it's just another example of good energy and karma and kismet. That the most special event, I think, that that the think tank puts together runs on my birthday week. It's such a great time.
Syd, when is that, and where?
Well, we don't know yet. We couldn't run it last year for many reasons, and we don't know if we could run it this year, because we normally have with it a tribute dinner where we honor some person that we use for raising money through our journal. And it is that convolution really that raises the money. We have a journal, we have a golf outing, we have things like auction of sports memorabilia all together in one place. And we've been successful with that. But unless we have numbers, you can't do it. I couldn't do this with 50 golfers. We need 80 to 100 golfers. And then we need another 50 to 80 people to come to the dinner afterwards. But we are working on it. Maybe something in the fall might work out, or we may have to postpone it until next springtime. But we've had, and we've honored some really great people. I just put on Facebook something, Malcolm, that you would appreciate, and so would Kareem. and that is about 15 years ago, I was called by the New York Mets, and they were looking to have their manager at the time, Willie Randolph, to work in a soup kitchen. And we were very close with the Bowery Mission, which is downtown Manhattan. And I had Willie Randolph and one of our board members, David Alcaro, came out and worked, and they were great. And the next year, Willie Randolph brought his wife and his daughter, and they worked again. And it wasn't because the Mets wanted him to. He came back a second year because he really thought he made a difference. And he actually asked to speak to some of the men there that were in counseling that had made a commitment to serve Christ through the kicking of their addiction. And Willie spoke to 25 men in a room, and they all wanted to hear him. And all he spoke about was not about God, not about baseball, but about how to be true to yourself, that you're doing it for you, not for anyone else. And God made your body, but you have a chance to cure yourself by believing in yourself and working at the Bowery Mission. It was an amazing talk, and I got chills listening to him because he didn't know where he was going to go with it, but he spoke from his heart, and he got through to these people that had just kicked addictions.
Yeah,
It was amazing.
we were talking earlier about religion, and there's I was raised Jewish, but really not religiously. But I went one time to this it was called Reconstructionists, and it was on 86th Street, and when I was in 86th Street and Central Park West. And the thing that impressed me, they didn't talk about how we could pay homage to God. They talked about us as Jewish, how we could help the world, how we could help people out as individuals, not that we would ask God for his help or her help, but that we could help other people individually. And this impressed me because when I go to services, whether it be Reformed or conservative or Orthodox, I always talk to the rabbi and say, why are we bending down? Why are we telling God how great he is? Does he have an ego problem? I still cannot see that. I don't know if there's an answer. Probably there's a theological answer. But it's what you as individuals or believing in people of faith can do for other people to help out, which obviously you do and Syd does.
Well, one of the things that I found is a lot of people use their volunteerism as a substitution for going to church or going to synagogue or going to a mosque because it's so hands-on and they see the fruits of their labor immediately. And I have people, over the last 30 years telling me that Rock and Wrap It Up is their religion. I don't want to hear that. Let me just, let me call you back. Thank you.
He just told
the in and
Yahweh that he's going to call him back. Wow.
The key is that everyone has to make a commitment, as you said, to make a difference. And we're such a small charity, but it's the individual that makes the difference with us. And we have, I can't even say it without stuttering, we have over 5,000 people that volunteer for us across America over the last 30 years, feeding over 1 billion people. And again, in pretty much anonymity. These are not people that need to be in newspapers or television. They're people that once they start working with an organization, the organizational needs is what drives them. I know it's going to sound stupid. I wake up in the morning thinking I'm not doing enough. Every morning I go, gee, I could have done more yesterday. And that's what drives me every morning to do what we do, and trying to get so many more people, because the more people we have, the more people will eat.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. Giving to charity is sort of or I hate to say, doing God's work, doing what you should be doing. Because again, going back to Judaism, I know what they talk about is during the holidays, you give to charity. And in the name of people, when you remember the dead, you give to charity in the name of.
Mhm.
And that's the important thing. And it's even better than giving to becoming involved, which you guys are doing. But what am I telling you?
Preaching to the choir.
You're a minister, and Syd is doing his work. But maybe the people out there that we can get to.
Well, that's what we're hoping. People will see this. I know we're going to put it on our Facebook. I'd encourage Kareem to get it out to as many people as possible. That it's the individual that makes this work. And it's the common sense that knowing that the needs are there. And, you know, as much as you've heard, it's been a tough year. It's worse than tough for people that have never had to go on a soup kitchen line, wait in their car for food to be brought to them. That's not just humbling, but they are almost ashamed that they've got to that level. And we want to make it so that they're not ashamed that this happens in life. You know, no one has a straight path in life. And that this is a tough time. That's why we got to be tougher.
No,
And try to
definitely.
do more.
And I know that time is we're up against the hard break, as we would say in television, but I do want to say two things, and we might not have time to do this. First, we really do need to talk about whether or not the pizza is better down by your location or is it better here in Connecticut, because I'm going to tell you, we got some spots that are really, really going to make that Brooklyn pizza look like burnt matzah. And the second is, you know, Syd, you have a tremendous story, and when you told the story about how you grew up stuttering, I have the same, as my mother would call it, affliction, the stuttering and the stammering. And, you know, maybe another time we can talk about how we overcame that, because now as a college professor, I get paid to talk for a living. And, you know, Mama would say, look at God, how God has just blessed us. And the same thing happened for Moses as well. Moses was
Absolutely.
a tremendous.
And Winston Churchill, by the way.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, we have a president, Joe Biden, who was a stutterer.
That's true. Still stuttering. And, you know, that movie, The King's Speech, I can't get through the first 15 minutes without breaking down, because it just brings me right back to when I was a little child. But despite all of these things, we continue to do great work. And it's just a great privilege for me to be in partnership with the Mandelbaums.
By the way, how can we get in contact with you? How does someone get in contact with you if they wanted to?
Yeah, so you can hit me up on Twitter at Kareem AMC, at Kareem AMC. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me, because every lunch hour I usually take a photo of what smoothie I just made and I blast it into the world, because everyone wants to know what type of smoothie I'm making. And also that's the best way to contact and stay in touch with my family. So it's always at Kareem at AMC.
Okay. Did you have a congregation, or is your father have a congregation, or?
Yeah, the old man does. He's got a really nice church up on the Cape that he's been with now for 5 years. And he continues to be allowed to walk back in that church without the doors blasting open.
What town is that in, Kareem?
He's in, Mom and Dad are in Falmouth.
Oh, I know.
Yep.
We used to
And,
vacation in West Yarmouth years ago.
very nice. Very nice.
Mildred Chowder House. Probably not there anymore.
Well, anyway, guys, you're right. Time is up, but we control our own time. So we're about 35, 40 minutes already out of our half hour. Because as I say, I have the longest goodbyes, or the long goodbye. But thank you very much. Looking forward to possibly one day meeting with you. If you ever come out to the West Coast, it seems like you're a traveling man.
Hey, if you have a job out in San Diego where I can get tenure, call me. Hi, guys. Great to see you.
Thank you, Syd. We'll speak.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.